good morning, or good afternoon, and welcome to recorded music class. So, even though we're not in class right now, we can always use videos to learn at any other time during the day. I'm going to be going over some things we've already learned, right? And these are ways to practice your notes. Okay? And some notes, we have multiple ways of playing them. We have multiple pitches, right? We might have the low version and the high version. Low, high. Okay? But we're going to try and get through all 12 notes that we use in Western music, or the system of music that we use to play on recorder. So, I'm going to give you 3 different ways to do that. We're going to do 2 of them in this video, and then I will send you another video with the third method. So the first 2 ways are going to be just practicing notes, one at a time. Making sure you have the right finger position, and the right breath. Right? So we use the cooling off a cup of hot cocoa with our breath test for some of our higher notes. And we use the warming up our hands breath with looser lips for some of the lower notes. So you can practice notes one at a time, matching your fingers with your breath. Or, if you're a little bit more comfortable, you can use the scales that we've learned. So we've gone through the major scale. And the major scale, I usually say, it's the same thing as do, re, mi, right? So, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. That little tune, we call that the major scale. When you start the major scale on a certain note, like C, then we call that the C major scale. Yes, major scales can start on other notes, on all 12 other notes, or all 11 other notes, plus C. And then you can call them the other major scales. So if I started on low D, you could play the D major scale. But I only really taught you the C major scale. Right? So that could be an example of how you get to practice 7 of your notes. Starting at low C and going to high C, or going from high C to low C. But you have to play all the right notes in the right order. So here's an example. I will play the C major scale from high C down to low C, and I'll play from low C up to high C. Okay. And the notes, high to low, are going to be C, B, A, G, F, E, low D, low C. And then I'll go backwards. And it's going to sound like this. So that was a C major scale. And a lot of that should be fairly simple for you, but maybe getting to and from the note F might be one of the trickier parts. So just remember, when you get to from going from G to F, C, B, A, G, you're going to add 3 fingers of your right hand, but not your second finger. So when you get to that G to F part of the major scale, G, F, G, F. You can practice that, go back and forth to get used to it. And then even from F to E can also be a little bit difficult. So F, E, F, E. E. So F, I'm lifting up my bottom two fingers and replacing it with my second finger on my right hand. Okay. So if you get tripped up there, just practice going back and forth between one note and the next note in the scale. Or you might be going the other direction. If we're going from low to high, then you'll go to E to F first, and then F to G. Okay? We also learned the chromatic scale. And so the chromatic scale is another way of saying all 12 of the notes that we're going to use. Remember, just like there are 12 inches in a foot on that ruler I showed you, we're now using all of the 12 notes to get from the low end of an octave, that's one of the intervals we learned, to the high end of the octave. All right? So I'm going to start on low D. Okay? And then I'm going to play it all the way up to high D. And now I'm going to play all the notes in between, not specific ones like the major scale did. I'm just going to play all of the notes in between low D and high D. And in doing so, we'll get to practice all of the notes. If you get to one part in the chromatic scale and you forget, how do I play this note? You probably want to stop, practice that note once so you can do your notes one at a time, and then come back and play the scale again. But the scale from low D to high D would sound like this. D, E flat, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A, B flat, B, C, high C, high C sharp, high D. So that was the chromatic scale starting from D. I can also go from high D down to low D. And if you want to play all the notes we know, you can also go to low C sharp and low C. And that's all of the finger positions we've learned. So if you can play a whole chromatic scale, you'll know all of your notes. The third way to practice our notes, I think, is the most fun way. That's playing them in songs. So in the next video you can watch, we can play some songs that we know, and some songs that maybe we don't know yet, but I'll show you the ones that you can use to practice certain notes.